Yo, what's up? How old are you?
You talking to me?
Yeah, how old are you?
40.
Do you support Trump?
I do.
Okay. And if you could go back in time, you could either vote for Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. Who would you rather vote for?
Trump.
And why do you support Trump?
Because he gave us better real wage growth to inflation than what we had under the Biden administration.
Well, since Trump has got in office, we've seen real wage growth decline since the
Oh,
end
and
of the
also
Biden administration.
that's not even true. Real
It's
median
true.
no, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, real median wages grew at around 2.8% under Trump in his first term. Meanwhile, they grew close to 4 under Biden and Harris in their 4 years.
Yes, but I said to inflation. And when inflation in 2022 hits a 40-year high of 9%,
He said real
then your
wage
real
growth.
wage growth doesn't matter.
He said real wage growth accounts for inflation. Did you know that?
I did know it, but it doesn't. When inflation is outpacing your real wage growth,
What are you
then
saying?
Dude, dude,
did inflation not outpace real wage growth to the tune that people were having to pay
That
$11,000
means you would
more
have
on
negative. That
average?
means that you would have declining real wage growth.
yeah. So I don't know
And
how
that's
to
what we
explain
saw
this.
in 2022.
So real wage growth is a figure that factors in for inflation. So like just the statement, did inflation outpace real wage growth? That's just gibberish, Like I don't know what that sentence even means, since inflation is a necessary component of the evaluation of what real wage growth is. So if inflation outpaced like nominal rate wage growth, then we'd say that real wage growth was negative. However, that wasn't the case in America under the Biden-Harris administration.
That was the case. People weren't getting over $11,000 more on average to pay for the inflation that they had to see. Because that's
Well, according to the U.S. Bureau of Economics, you're wrong.
Yeah, the Bureau
According
of
how
to
am
Labor
the
I,
Federal
okay.
Statistics.
Reserve
So the
Bank of
middle and
The
lower
Bureau of
class.
Labor Statistics indicates that the wage there was absolutely real wage growth.
Yeah, so the middle and lower class are not suffering from credit card debt of groceries on credit cards due to inflation since 2022.
No one's disputing that inflation's gone up and people are dealing with inflation, but what you're not understanding is that wages increased to account for inflation, right? And if you're talking about like the conditions for real wage growth, they're actually made worse specifically under the Trump administration.
From what prices are higher right now because of what Trump has done that is affecting the middle and lower class?
What policies has he implemented have negatively impacted the working class? Well, tariffs.
Okay, so what are they buying in the middle and lower class that are directly affected because of tariffs?
Well, because specifically, or talk about groceries typically within the context of the economy, energy prices, pharmaceuticals.
Groceries are up because of the extreme global weather. Your milk is up because of
Weather, but
HPAI,
climate
which
change
is an
isn't real.
influenza. Your cattle stock is low because of 2023 drought and hasn't
No, we're talking
recovered
about
yet.
groceries as a whole.
Yeah, I know. And I'm giving you all the examples of why the groceries as a whole are up.
Groceries are definitely pushed up in terms of the upward pressure on the prices because of the fact that tariffs have been implemented.
No, because of the global weather issues affecting the crops, your HPAI, which
Not
is
That's not
a
going to cause
influenza
inflation
affecting
across the
your milk and
entirety of
dairy
the.
products.
That's not the inflation across everything. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, grocery prices are up because of multiple factors and very little to do with tariffs. Look it up.
So you're saying that they have very little to do with tariffs specifically, but
Yes.
even though the tariffs have put upward pressure on prices on other aspects of the economy, not just on groceries. I already mentioned other aspects of the economy that
Okay,
specifically have upward pressure
electricity.
on it because of tariffs.
Yeah, your electricity is up because we haven't been able to meet the global demand because we've been pivoting to renewable energy, which cannot meet the
No,
demand of the
no,
electricity
you're just
with
lying.
AI
You're just
and all
lying.
of your
You're
server
just
stacks.
lying.
I'm not lying. Look
No,
it
you are.
up.
You are because Trump has cut the funding for
How?
them through the context of the Inflation Reduction Act. He's been cutting the funding for renewable energy. Renewable energy is actually what's been decreasing in prices still, even given the fucking decreases in subsidies, particularly under the Trump administration.
So
And
you're
Jennifer,
telling
thank you
me
for the
supply and
$20.
demand is
Said
not a
happy birthday to
factor?
Two Shads. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you for the
Or like
$20. Happy birthday
PJM
to Two
getting
Shads.
sued by Josh Shapiro because of fudging the numbers, which is what raised the prices for anyone in the PJM area.
Here, Dean, can you talk to him real quick? I want to grab something to drink real quick. If you're here.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was in the middle of making some tea, but I pretty much got it done.
Can you or just? I'm just.
Yeah,
asking.
good drive.
For sure. Sorry, because I haven't had anything to drink the whole stream.
No, you're good, man.
Which, in all honesty, the tariffs barely affect products compared to a 28% increase on your corporate tax rate that Harris was trying to impose.
Yeah, I don't think that a 4% increase in the corporate tax rate would have hiked prices. Do we have higher prices under Trump in his first term or Obama in his second?
Obama and his with Obama, I don't know. I haven't looked into it.
Okay. Well, the question to the answer would be under Trump in his first term. I'm not saying that the rate of inflation was super high, but just simply denoting that inflation took place, which isn't too surprising. But it definitely does kind of contradict your position, given the fact that we had a substantially higher corporate tax rate under Obama until the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act passed and reduced it from 35 to 25. So if a 10% reduction in the corporate tax rate didn't have any impact on inflation, and in fact inflation continued to occur, then why would a 4% hike on the corporate tax rate be causing more inflation than tariffs on every other country in the world?
But because you gave them a tax relief and now you're going to tax them higher, giving them a reason to state that they're going to impose that cost down to the consumer, even though they more than likely won't feel the cost because of all the tax loopholes they'll probably receive.
So why did they use that as a reason under Obama?
When did the tax rate go up?
Well, it went down in 2018 with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act.
I know it went down from 35 to 21%.
Not to mention, right, that like the price of these goods, right, is impacted by corporate price gouging. But guess what? Kamala Harris also ran on policy to federally ban, right, particular types of corporate price gouging.
I know. What, we're going to do a communistic policy setting corporate prices, and
What?
she tried to do that in California, but nobody
can you
actually got in trouble in
hold up.
California for it.
Can you define communism?
Define communism? Why? It's a communistic policy to price control, is it not?
Okay, so Trump's price controls were communistic?
Yeah, I guess Trump's a communist.
They are, yes. Price
Yes,
control
Trump's a
policies
communist.
are communistic policy.
Let's go,
That's
W.
inherent.
Commie Trump. Communist Trump.
Oh, I call Trump out all the time,
Comrade
including his
Trump.
executive order on flag burning, but his words
Wait,
are
Comrade
asinine.
wait. So you support someone with communistic ideology?
I support majority of policies, not all policies. I call Trump out all the time on my live.
On your live? So you run your live? You have a
I
live
do.
on TikTok?
Dean's been in there. Dean actually laughed at someone while on my live because he was being a complete moron in why he hated Trump.
Yeah,
Dean
this-
was in the comments.
Yeah, this guy runs daily Trump lives. I remember that, dude. Some liberal was up on his live, like literally like freaking out, like spamming slurs, saying that he wanted to like beat up this guy, right? And I was like just telling this liberal he's a terrible representation for the left. But regardless of that, and I mean, back to the debate. What's the substance?
Yeah, like what? What type of relevance is that? Now, if you want to talk about your whole little thing, I have a question for you. Let's run this on you, and hopefully you don't think this is changing the topic. If you do, you don't have to answer if you don't feel like it. Would you vote for someone held civilly liable of sexual abuse?
I voted for Trump and he was held civilly liable, but what was the physical evidence in the case?
Well, I mean, I can point to specific things, but I asked you a question. Would you vote for him? Yes or no?
I already did.
You did. Okay, so would you vote for him if you were held civilly liable of sexually abusing a child?
He hasn't. But no, I
I'm
wouldn't.
asking. Okay.
If
What's the relevant
if the-
difference between the victim being a child and the victim being an adult? That means in one scenario you'd vote for him over Kamala Harris, but in the other scenario you wouldn't.
See, the thing is, in that case, she accused 6 other men without bringing any
Wrong.
litigation to 6 other men. She said
She
20
never
plus
accused
other
6
men. Yes, she
That's
did.
not-
She
That's
in
not
her
true.
book she accuses 6 total men.
Not true.
That's
That's
just
wrong.
simply that's
That
just
that
simply
is
not true.
1,000% true.
You wanna
She
bet?
also said,
Do you want to bet?
Yes.
Listen. If you can name 3 other people that she's accused, I'll give you $100.
her camp counselor, let me see, camp counselor, brother, and
Wait, are you talking about
boss.
sexual assault?
Yes.
Of forcefully penetrating her vagina against her will. Okay, so then let's talk about. Okay, let's put money on this. How much would you like to bet? You said six different
I don't know.
people.
I got like 50K in my bank account.
You want to bet 50K? Make an actual legitimate bet.
I have 50K in my bank account. Like, you guys get how from the DNC or other people?
I'm not gonna take your whole bank account, man.
Okay.
Why are you telling me how much is in your whole bank account? I didn't ask that question. I asked you how much would you bet.
I said this is how much I have. How much are you willing of that to take? How much, or not take, but lose? Because
exactly. How much am I willing to take?
How much are you willing to lose?
I'm not going to take all 50K, bro. You said that we were paid by the DNC. What makes you think that we're paid by the DNC?
I said DNC and others like Midas Touch.
When did Midas Touch pay me?
Midas Touch is pushing out payments to people as well because of all their.
Wait, when did Midas Touch send me money?
It's been well documented that Midas Touch sends money. Pack from the DNC and the DNC sends out money. Are you guys saying that you get nothing from anyone? Are you saying you get nothing from anyone? The only thing you get is from people here that donate to you and the videos you push out. That nobody else pays you to push out propaganda.
I just make money off of YouTube ads, TikTok, Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Linktree in the bio. Go ahead.
I would love to see those tax returns to prove that.
Yo, real quick. You're saying that like we're paid by the DNC. So explain why last week I had the chairman of the DNC, Ken Martin, up on my stream, and I asked him, right, if I'm paid by him or the DNC as a whole, right, and he irrefutably said absolutely not.
Oh, he must be lying. He must be lying.
That doesn't mean they don't give it to a media company that paid you or anything of the sort.
What media
Jojo, thank you so much for the $30 for the Midas mighty paycheck. Jojo, thank you for the $30 for the Midas mighty paycheck. Thank you so much. J-Dubs, thank you so much for the $50. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Actually, all through TikTok. Really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Give me some W's for Jay in the comment section. DK with the $10. Thank you so much. Midas Touch, obviously sending all the money that they possibly can, apparently, to Parkergetajob stream, apparently, which, you think happened, which you have no reason to believe at all. And by the way, you're asking for evidence for things, but then you have literally no basis for this at all.
Yeah. Like, dude, you're going to say that a civil court was wrong when 90 anonymous jurors determined that Donald Trump raped Teaching Terrell, but then you're right when you basically assume with no evidence whatsoever that we're paid by the DNC or Midas Touch. You're just, I don't know, man. I feel like you're kind of like a political grifter. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm not grifting. I don't even ask for so much as a tap. I don't battle, tap, asking, or anything on my live. People do what they do, and I just let them do it. I don't care if I talk to 5 people or one person.
So then you turn off your gifts?
I don't.
Oh, why not?
I just let people do as they do. I don't ask for shit.
Didn't you just plug your live in the stream?
I said that I was mentioning it because Dean was in there and how there was a person on the left that was talking some nonsense.
Wait, yeah, you literally plugged it on my stream, dude. Shut the fuck up. Max, thank you for the $10 for Midas Touch as well. Donate, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And fucking J-Dubs, thank you again with the $300 on YouTube Super Chat. Holy shit, can we have some W's for J-Dubs in the comment section for the $300 on YouTube Super Chat? Holy shit, thank you so much. Yeah, I think you can only do it through social media, but I don't really have any other mechanism to do so outside of social media. Maybe sometime I can add in a phone number here. But thank you so much, J-Dubs. Can we have some W's for J-Dubs in the comment section right now? Thank you so much. And then, Mr. Thank you so much for $10. Thank you for Midas Touch representative and Quinn. Thank
should we go over the 6 people that she?
Hold up. Let Dean say thank you real quick.
Morgan, I appreciate you so much for the $5. Thank you so much.
W's right there. Alrighty. All right, you there?
I am here.
Okay, go for it. You were saying?
So it was an unnamed camp counselor in her book, What Do We Need Men For? And also an ABC interview in June of 2019. The former CBS CEO in her book, as well as the New York Magazine excerpt. Then it was an unnamed lake house owner and that was in her book. It was an unnamed prominent journalist also mentioned in her book, an unnamed acquaintance in her book, and she implied Harvey Weinstein in multiple interviews but never sued, saying he groped her in a dressing room.
Yeah, so
Like I said, she mentioned 6 people have done similar acts to her but never sued them.
Yeah. So, okay. So, again, in these circumstances that you're referencing, we were talking about specifically referencing forceful penetration of a woman's vagina against her will. That's the connotation that we're referencing. You've brought up situations specifically of things that are listed in the book where she specifically names 2 people. There were people specifically, Donald Trump and less movies, or I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce
Less
it.
movies.
Yes, that's correct. That's his
Those
name.
those are the 2 that are mentioned specifically. Other circumstances, she specifically talks about situations where there are individuals that specifically are unnamed, right? And in these circumstances, right, there's not specifically a particular person that's named or anything like that. So there's no particular accusation towards a particular person that you can reference. She's just talking about things that have happened in her life.
Yeah, so a total of 6 people have done similar acts to her, but
I'm
no
sorry,
other
I'm sorry.
lawsuits.
Yeah, I'm sorry. She came after people specifically who defamed her. She came after Donald Trump for defaming her. And also in terms of the circumstance, one, you specifically weren't necessarily correct there. Secondly, it's not uncommon for people to specifically have multiple people who have specifically engaged in sexual misconduct towards them, and then for them to specifically come out and talk about that.
So, due to the Adult Survivors Act, why didn't she go after any of the other people?
One, they'd have to be specific people, and they'd also, this is due to the fact that she went after people who defamed her. She didn't just go after every single person specifically. She didn't go after the last Moonvies guy as well.
I'm pretty sure he also said he didn't do it.
Oh,
Okay.
wow, shocking.
So why wouldn't she go after
really?
him?
Wait, really?
The Adult Survivors Act allowed it.
He didn't admit to raping her? Wow. Also, can we just bring up the fact that the civil court proceedings between E. Jean Carroll and Donald Trump lasted 4 years, with pre-trial proceedings beginning in 2019 and then the adjudication of the court coming down in 2023. So I just think it's absurd of you to ask, well, why did she only go after one individual compared to all 6? It's just insane to assume, right, that if E. Jean Carroll was a victim, then she'd give up, on average, a projected 20 years of her life, right, towards the pursuit of litigation against the individuals who have sexually committed sexual violence against her. Right, and the reasons why she pursued litigation against Donald Trump were incredibly clear. Right, he was the serving president running for re-election, right, spamming on Truth Social about how this is a crazy lady who's basically accusing him of raping her and that she deserves to be thrown in jail. Honestly, if Les Moonves was in a similar position, right, I wouldn't doubt it that she would have pursued litigation against him too. But I don't think that this is a good, more compelling counter-argument against her proven claim against Donald J. Trump because of all the facts that I just brought up and more.
Well, did she not make money off of her initial claim?
Did she not make money off of her claim? You're talking about the claim that she made in her book, right?
Yes, where she published
money
it
off the book.
on the excerpt in the New Yorker.
She made money off the book. The same way, wait, are you saying, right, that because you make money off of your lives, given the fact that you accept gifts on TikTok, that therefore everything you say in your lives is false?
No.
Okay, all right. So then I think that your argument against E. Jean Carroll making money off of her book, therefore the claims made in the book are false, is pretty shitty.
Well, what's the physical evidence? Because if the outfit was a physical evidence, then why in the second time would they not give up the full appendix of the raw DNA for testing?
Just before we talk about the evidence presented in the case, can you concede that last argument you made about, well, she made money off of the claim in the book?
Well, she did. There's motive. That's motive in making money.
Because she made money off of this claim in the book, therefore that claim is false. So because you make money off of your lives, therefore everything you say in your life is false.
Well, was Elle magazine a popular magazine at the time she made the claim?
Do you want to address Dean's argument there, please?
It wasn't.
Hey, hold up. Can you address Dean's argument there?
What? The fact that she made money off the book, which shows motive? Because she directly mentions the president on the front cover of the New Yorker magazine, which then says that the rest of it is in her book. It's the excerpt of her book. So she's making money.
I'm sorry. So you don't think that people who specifically make money off of stating something to be true, you're saying that they're lying. So again, like what Dean said, you make money off of your live streams. Does that mean that you're lying? Because you're doing so to make
No,
money.
but you have to. Is there a motive of a reason that I could be lying?
Yes.
Like what?
Like you're making money off of it. People send you gifts. There's a motive,
But what
that doesn't necessarily
accusation
mean
would I
that
be?
is your motive. There
But
is
what
a potential
accusation?
motive.
What accusation would I like? What would I be lying about that I'm making money off of because of my lies?
Trump supporter. You could be grifting.
I could be, but I mean, I don't even make a dent in money. Like I make nothing. I'm a nobody on this app.
Wait, so you're saying anyone who makes money specifically off of, what they specifically believe in, you're saying that they don't actually believe that?
There's a lot of people that don't actually believe it. Like you could literally see the second that Trump.
Would you have said that about Charlie Kirk? Would you say that he didn't actually believe what he said?
No, Charlie Kirk believed what he said.
But he made money off of it.
Oh, I know, but there's tons of people on here.
Wasn't there a motive there? Wasn't there a motive there?
There's a motive.
Okay, so then would you argue that just because there was a motive, that means that everything that he said was
what
false?
claim? What claim is he making against somebody else where that person is saying that is not factual, and he's making money off of said claim like that?
Like, for example, he said that the Republicans won the 2020 election with no evidence?
Yeah, that's a straight lie.
So
until someone shows me more evidence, that's a lie.
So you think?
And I don't like to talk about 2020 because this is TikTok. Like, how many times has your live been taken down talking about the 2020 election?
Oh, you're so scared. Oh.
Well, yeah, I literally showed a DOJ case where somebody got arrested, tried and charged, and sentenced, and I got my live taken down. I don't talk about 2020 for that reason.
Okay, but you understand that my point there was valid.
I mean, you have some validity.
Okay, so then, again, your whole argument that specifically she had a quote unquote motive, right? That's not an argument, because the same thing would then be true about all your little favorite conservative content creators.
It could be true about everyone. Conservative content creators, for the most part, at least on this app, don't make anywhere near what you guys make.
You understand that there are other platforms, right?
I know.
Right, so then what's your point?
I'm just making the statement that you guys make way more. But how many times do you guys criticize your own party?
Wait, so are you just saying that we're more successful than you guys? Is that what you're just
saying?
Saying? About? Are you jealous?
No, but how many times do you guys criticize your own party?
Like Eli, thank you so much for the $100 on YouTube Super Chat. Thank you so much, Eli. Give me some W's for Eli in the comment section right now. I actually didn't do debate in high school. I actually didn't do. Thank you so much, Eli, for the $100 on YouTube Super Chat. DK, thank you so much for the $5. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the meme guide. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I just got back. Now this guy's asking how often do we criticize our own party? When I had the chairman of the DNC on my live, I was criticizing him. I was criticizing the DNC.
Like what?
Yeah, for sure. I brought up the fact that I think the reason why the favorability rating of the Democratic Party is lower than the approval rating of the 34-count felon rapist that fulfills all 14 defining tenets of fascism, right, has a lot to do with people feeling a disconnect between them and their representatives, a growing by the Democratic representatives that live there, including Chuck Schumer. Like, shit, I literally posted something on my story yesterday about Chuck Schumer being like a POS, right, for not talking about Mamdani, not endorsing Mamdani. And if you go to my Twitter account, I replied to I replied to Joe Biden yesterday saying thank you for talking about Mamdani's win in New York City, right? Unlike a lot of other Democrats who won't, right? So I mean, I'd say that I criticize the Democratic Party quite frequently.
Okay, that's fair. At least you did, because it's rare to see on this app Democrats criticizing the party. They usually will just say, "Oh, well, Republicans did the shutdown," when that's not even true, because Republicans are voting.
You're talking to the most prominent TikTok debater right now, Dean, right? And he literally just told you that he consistently is critiquing the Democrat or critiquing his own party.
And I said that's fair.
When do you see the golden millennial critiquing his own party?
The older millennial, well, he critiqued on the bombing of Iran.
That's
He
one
didn't
thing.
support Trump on
That's
that
true.
one.
That's one thing. That's one thing. You can't mention a single other one.
I don't know. I don't talk to Joe on a daily basis.
Okay. Get it right. It's the
I
golden
tend,
millennial. Okay, the
I
golden
know. I
millennial.
tend to listen to a lot more of what you guys and the people on your platform here, like Johnny Palmadessa, say, so I can try to refute it instead of listening to people and getting a bias. I don't want a bias on my side.
Johnny Palmadessa was literally just criticizing Hakeem Jeffries in like impromptu press conference for creators in DC like yesterday.
He was, because I mean, he asked a question about federal dollars going for the middle class and how the middle class isn't as representative of the federal dollars being spent on them compared to the rest. But I mean, the highest class isn't either. Like, social programs are for the middle and lower class.
Yeah, you're just like Johnny asked. I was just simply trying to demonstrate that he criticized Jeffries, which is true.
Well, his video wasn't a criticism. His video was asking a question that Jeffries then answered.
Then go look at the comment section under his video. Why is everybody like, we need to primary Jeffries out because he's insane?
Well, because no one is touting out policies. They're touting out how they hate Trump on the Democratic Party. Is all I keep hearing in my life.
We've given you multiple examples of us being very critical of our own side, whereas you
I
couldn't
know.
give us examples of yourself being critical or MAGA being critical of their own side. So why is this argument specifically just applicable to us that we're not critical of our own
Trump
side?
says
And that
a-
we're some because you were using this as an argument to say that we're fucking paid, right?
Trump says a lot of dumbass shit. I call him out all the time. Like, he wrote the executive, or they wrote the executive order for him to sign on the flag burning, and then he literally says, I want people jailed for up to a year for burning the flag, which you can't do. Your executive order even mentions Texas v. Johnson, saying it cannot go against that. He's a dumbass on a lot of things he says. It's the actions that I take into account more than the shit he says.
So what do you even support him on, man? Like seriously,
Because
like
the
held
actions.
like I want to go back to actually. There's a point that I wanted to bring up too. You said that you wouldn't support him if you were held civilly liable of sexually abusing a child, but you would support him if you were held civilly liable of sexually abusing a woman. Do you still hold that position, or have you changed it and now you're okay
because
with
I don't
voting
believe
for him if you're
Eugene
held civilly
Carroll.
liable of sexually abusing a child?
I just don't believe E. Jean Carroll. I don't believe that the dressing room was somehow...
Can you name one piece of evidence in the case that you dispute?
Well, one, they weren't giving up the raw DNA for the testing of Trump's DNA. Like, why do you not
Trump.
want...
That was Trump not giving
No,
up his
no.
DNA within the multiple years allotted where he had the ability to do so.
Yeah, but then he offered it for the raw DNA to be given to his side to refute it.
After the time allotted.
There was still enough time between the trial, was there not?
No, there was not. He specifically did so after the time slot allotted. This is like turning in your homework after it was due, and then being like, "Why didn't they grade it? Why didn't they grade it?"
So then, why did the judge in the second time the first time he offered
go
it?
real quick. Let Dean go real quick. He's smiling. Go ahead.
So what it sounds like to me is that if you did believe Eugene Carroll, then you wouldn't support Trump. So just to be clear, right, if you believe with certainty, right, based on undeniable evidence that Donald Trump had raped or sexually exploited, right, women and or girls, would you still support him as president?
By the way, I have to unmute because you were echoing. I muted you.
I was echoing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Echo.
Yeah, I wouldn't support him if there was undeniable proof.
Okay. Can we agree that sexual exploitation would include the abuse of a position of power over the position of vulnerability of one else for sexual gratification or engaging in unconsensual sexual context for the furtherance of the abuse of power?
Oh, okay. What are you going to reference?
I'm just curious. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, what you're going to reference?
Well, okay, so we can agree on that. Okay, well then seemingly, if you're a man of your word, right, you're no longer going to be a Trump supporter in about 30 seconds from now because Parker's going to play a clip of Donald Trump boasting about the sexual exploitation of naked women and or naked girls at Miss Teen USA and or Miss USA in 2005 to Howard Stern on his radio show. When he talked about how he'd unconsensually barge into their dressing rooms and look at them when they're naked with no clothes on, And this would definitely fulfill, right, the definition of sexual exploitation that we just agreed to, as he's abusing his position of power as the owner of the pageant to allow himself in, then abusing their position of vulnerability, right, vulnerable enough to get naked to change because they are in a private women's only space with no men around. Therefore, because you told me that you would no longer support Trump if you had undeniable evidence that Donald Trump had sexually exploited women and or girls, you are no longer a Trump supporter.
The owner
Yeah,
of the pageant, it's your
2012,
obligation to do that.
Howard Stern
you have
interview.
done that.
It's not fake.
What's up?
It's not fake. It's like what from 2012. But like I said, Trump says a lot of dumbass shit. But then we had interviews where people were saying that they were pre-warned that a guest was going to come in. They need to get ready. They need to get dressed. So I believe the people of the contestants that stated it over Trump saying shit when Trump has multiple times said some lies and asinine stuff.
Wait, in that he says that they had no clothes on, right? So like maybe in some scenarios they were pre-warned and he went back there and gave them a heads up. But obviously we know that in other scenarios there was no heads up and he barged in there inconsensually without any warning and they were still naked because that's what Donald Trump said in the clip. So are you saying that when Donald Trump said he'd barge in there and see the naked women and girls that he didn't actually mean it?
Sorry, I'm muting again because it's just like there's a little bit of feedback.
Yeah.
By the way, after this, I'm going to drop down and start my own live. But like, listen, like Hoff, you have absolutely no reason to reject that Donald Trump has unconsensually barged in to the private women's only spaces and looked at the naked women and or girls there, right? Because that's what he admitted to. That's what he said.
I know, and I don't know why he's saying it when we have the women and the girls of the Miss Teen USA refuting it, saying otherwise, that it didn't happen. I don't know if he's trying to gain favor with Howard Stern because
How do you know that it didn't just happen to them? Right? How do you know that it didn't happen to like other women or other girls, right? Besides like the one contestant of Miss USA that you could name who said, I don't think he'd ever actually do this. He never did it to me. How do you know that he didn't do it to others? Like we obviously have more than enough evidence, right, to prove he did it to others because not only did others testify to the fact that he did it to them, and if you're going to accept the testimony of contestants that say otherwise, you thereby have to accept the testimony of the women and girls that affirmed what he said, not to mention what he said in his own admittance, right? Obviously, any rational brain would conclude, I'm sure that this didn't happen to all women at Miss USA. I'm sure that this didn't happen to all girls in Miss Teen USA, but we're also sure that it happened to at least some because that's what he said.
So that's also like in the context of a court system, a friend of a murderer being like, he didn't murder me, as a defense for them not murdering people. Like, what? Them not murdering one person is not evidence that they're not a murderer.
So what? Are you saying in the E. Jean Carroll case you had contestants saying that he did this?
No, I'm actually not referencing Eugene Carroll at all. I'm referencing when he told Howard Stern that he'd barge in on the private dressing rooms of women and girls at Miss Teen USA and Miss USA. Women and girls.
And we can confirm that Donald Trump has lied on multiple occasions.
Yeah, we can confirm that Donald Trump lied over 30,000 times in his first term. But when people lie, they do so in furtherance of their own goals or in furtherance of the goals of one else. Right? Obviously, when Donald Trump said that he did this, he wasn't furthering his own goals. And obviously, when Donald Trump said this, he wasn't furthering the goals of anybody else that he cares about. Right? So, I mean, just saying that he lies on other occasions in reference to self-benefit and self-preservation, right, wouldn't say that therefore he was lying when he said something that's incredibly detrimental to himself, if anything, right, because we know that he's willing to contort reality to such a grave extent to make it seem like he's the good guy all the time, that he's the one that's helping, when he admitted that he wasn't and that he, like, walked in on these women and girls changing while they were naked, right, it demonstrates that not only, right, is this something that he's done, but he bragged about it in a way that he thought it was permissible and or made him look good.
Yeah, I know you're like in your 20s and you don't know the true Howard Stern of the 90s, but he's doing it as a way to gain favor and to impress Howard Stern. Because the old Howard Stern, just watch Howard Stern Private Parts. You will see the misogynistic Howard Stern that used to do various grotesque things on air that would get him fined
that's you defending this behavior, because again that's just showing of the environment that Trump was willing to put himself in.
Yeah, I'm saying that Trump possibly is lying because I haven't heard contestants saying that this happened. I
He's
heard
lying.
contestants saying the
Wait, yeah,
opposite.
there was an 18-year-old that came out, said there were 4 girls as young as 15 years old in these changing rooms, and Donald Trump would barge in. You're just not telling the truth. You said that
Right.
there were none of the people
Like
that
I
came
said,
out
I
and said
didn't
that.
hear it.
Well, they came out and said this, and then you're gonna be like, "What's the evidence?" Because you don't believe any of the 26 women that have accused Donald Trump, more than 26 women that have accused Donald Trump of sexual misconduct. You don't believe a single one of them. You think every single one of them is lying.
Only
Also, like, this is also like saying like your first thing, like, oh, he just wanted to impress Howard Stern and get him clicks. This is like saying that the predators at like Gideon or the predators at like Mr. Hansen, I forget his first name, right? Like, will catch and talk to that will then admit to these things. Were like obviously just lying so they could help like get the TV show clicks. Like, this is like crazy. Like, I'm sorry, but you're just playing like games to defend sexual exploitation, and it makes you like an abysmally weak, spineless man.
Well, only one took Trump to court. The other one dropped her case and used a pseudonym with Al Taylor, who used
Wait,
a
you wouldn't even
pseudonym
accept if
that
it
was
goes through the
Norm
context
Lebeau.
of a court process. You don't even accept it then. So what are you talking about?
Like
If it
what?
goes through a court process, whether or not you're going to accept it? What are you talking about?
Because it wasn't criminal and it was all hearsay evidence. There was no
Okay, so
physical
wait, so you do
evidence.
accept the criminal cases against Trump, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
why
you
are
accept
you-
the 34 felonies?
Well, how do you take a misdemeanor and elevate it using
Oh, wait, you see
federal
what I mean? Now he
election
doesn't even
crimes?
accept the criminal
Well,
case.
you can't use
case
federal election
determination.
crimes at a state level, can you?
By the way, if you're saying this is a determination specifically by the state courts, it's not necessarily a determination that they couldn't make. It's obviously within the purview of what they can do, else it wouldn't have been granted specifically by the judge in the court process. You're just saying that the court process was not legal, so then why didn't the appeal process go through and limit that from happening?
Okay, Parker, I'm gonna hop on live.
All right, for sure. Have fun.
Because
man.
a state's only allowed to deal with time, place, and manner of an election. So what was one of the three predicate crimes that they all agreed upon?
One second. The Hoff, when you're done talking to Parker, right, I'm fucking challenging you to come to my live because I want to have a little bit of a conversation with you myself. Are you going to accept it? Are you going to accept the challenge? Are you going to come over to
As
my
soon as
live?
I'm done here, I got to put my little one to bed. Depending on how long that takes, yes.
All right, the Hoff. I'll hopefully see you there. All right, I really hope that you'll be there. You know what I mean? Like, you do these streams all day yourself. You know, it'd be the people would want to see it. But I guess I'm gonna go start my own live. Parker, see you later.
All right, for sure. I'll see you, man.
Yeah.
What was your point?
But yeah, what were the three predicate crimes, and why did the judge not give the jury the option or tell the jury they don't have to agree on one specific predicate crime unanimously?
They don't need to. And by the way, let me just clarify here. Even if it isn't specifically a felony, it's still a misdemeanor. It's still a violation of the law. So the idea that we're pointing to here is that you don't even accept the determination specifically from a criminal court case. So if you're trying to bring up the dispute for all of these different women that have come out and accused Donald Trump of sexual misconduct, and your dispute is that they specifically didn't go through a court process, well, you didn't even accept the court process anyway. So that's obviously a ridiculous assertion for you to make. And again, that's also not a determination to say that every single one of them is lying. What is the probability of 26 different women lying? What is that? What is the probability?
Well,
It's very low, right?
mean, it could be, but how many of the people were proven factual in the Michael Jackson cases? Because there was multiple of those, and when he finally went to court, he proved his innocence.
So so you're saying that there could be a case where there's 26 different people indicating that a certain person is engaged in sexual misconduct, and you're not going to believe it?
I want to see evidence on it.
That's evidence. 26 different people indicating this happened is evidence. I have a question. Are you Christian?
No, I really don't go with religion.
But are you Christian?
Like, yeah, my background, but I don't do
Like right
anything
now?
religious.
No? Okay.
No.
All right. I was just saying.
I believe more in science of things than I do in anything that the Bible has to say on stuff.
Sure. Okay, so but like, do you understand my points there? That like you have good enough reason and evidence to indicate this. There's clearly 26 different people specifically that indicate this to be true. If there's 26 different people that specifically indicate something about a first person set of circumstances, that's very good evidence to indicate that this thing happened, because it's very unlikely that many people specifically are lying. right? Over decades of time. We're talking about like his ex-wife. We're talking about so many different types of people specifically. There's no coordination to say that you could specifically say it was a group of people or anything like that. So it's very obvious that there's very, very good reason to believe that this has happened. If you don't believe
But
even one of them individually, acknowledge that the likelihood of 26 different people coming out specifically and talking about the fact that this happened is good reason to believe that. Like if this happened to one of your friends, 26 different women came out and said that they engaged in sexual misconduct towards them, would you believe them or would you believe the 26 women?
I would have to see the evidence because he has money and there's motive there if they think they can get a settlement out of him instead of going through the whole court proceedings. Like it's much easier to wipe away with an NDA settlement.
Coordination. You'd have to indicate that there was coordination amongst the 26 different people. And most of the people specifically didn't even go through the court process to be able to get that in the first place. So if it's specifically about money, then how come they didn't go through the court process?
It doesn't have to be about money because all they have to do is settle out of court. They can make an allegation to him and settle out of court.
They didn't even do a settlement.
Okay, so then what's their claim? When did the claim happen? If there was no
settlement, if there was no court case, what was their point for lying under your view?
Well, when did they first make the accusations?
Like for example, his ex-wife, right, specifically did so in the divorce decree.
She did in the divorce decree, but didn't she take that away then?
I don't know when she took that away. Could you show me?
Yeah, let me double check because I thought she ended up saying it never happened then, and that it might have been just a rage of divorce.
No, I'd love to see the position for that. I'd love to see anything. There are people saying in the comment section that he threatened to take her life or something. I don't know. I'd have to see what you're specifically referencing.
Yeah, I don't know. I was under the impression that she did remove the claim, but I gotta double check.
Okay, but like, do you understand that there's 26 different people? There's many of the individuals specifically that, right, again, have nothing to do with these particular circumstances, didn't even go through the court circumstances, didn't make any money off of it, yet specifically still said these particular things were true.
Again, when was the timing of the claim? Oh, yeah. So Ivana effectively removed her claim that he raped her.
Did she remove the claim about domestic violence or an abuse or anything like that? So do you believe... Okay. So, I mean, that's actually something that was news to me. I'd have to go and look at that.
She said she felt violated, but it didn't mean that it was rape in the literal criminal sense, as love and tenderness was absent.
Wait, in a criminal sense is specifically referencing, right, that at that time, wasn't there like a different criminal sense of rape that didn't even apply in the context of marriage?
Well, yeah, because she said love and tenderness was absent. She called the story totally without merit.
I'm confused. I'd have to look at what you're referencing. But do you accept any of the other claims that she made?
What other claim? I'd have to look into each claim. Like, there's so many claims. It gets ridiculous when talking about Trump.
No, it's because you're not even willing to actually engage with the fact that it's extraordinarily unlikely for 26 different plus people to be engaging in lies, specifically, especially when there's no monetary basis to this for every single one of them. And also, again, even so, like having a monetary basis for it is not a reason to say that someone's lying. That same evidence is indicating that people just going on these different platforms are lying. Like Charlie Kirk is lying then.
Well, when are they making these claims? Are they making these? Are they making these claims before he had any ambition of running for president? Are they making these claims after running or during running or while president?
That doesn't matter.
It does.
You understand
because they could be out there to hurt his character as a president.
No, it could be good reason to come out and after your abuser, specifically given that they've been able to run for office. That makes sense to do. So I don't think that that's a reason to say that like this didn't happen to someone. I think you're just blaming the victim instead of acknowledging that it's actually probabilistically likely for victims to take decades to come out in often circumstances. So I don't think that this is a good reason. And also, like, I mean, there's 26 different women. So the fact that you're making one particular assertion like that is not going to be true in all these different circumstances. So say you don't accept one of them, that doesn't mean that all of the other aren't true, right? Now, again, you'd have to say every single one of the women are lying. Do you think every single one of the women are lying? Is that your position?
I don't know. I don't know the case in all, but I know the Katie Johnson one, when she filed in California, although it was filed incorrectly, the judge said there was no evidence for the case. Also, she was tied to Norm LeBeau.
You understand that's because they specifically pulled out of the case because the fact that they were being harassed?
No, not that case.
Yes, that is that case.
That was
that
the
we're
New
talking
York
about.
one. That was the New York one. In California, she first filed with Norm LeBeau, who was the executive producer for the Jerry Springer Show, and the judge referenced that there's no evidence in the case besides the fact that they filed incorrectly.
Okay, I'm confused. Why? Why are you specifically providing again one case that that to say that like you don't accept all of them? I'm asking about the probability specifically of every single one of the cases being false. Do you think every single one of them is a lie?
Yeah, I have to look at each and every one of them, but in that one, we can already refute it. Even the attorney she had in New York doesn't want to talk about her.
You can't say it. No, tell me, what is the probability of every single one of them being a lie?
I mean, it's going to be a lower probability.
Very low. Extraordinarily low. Like, think about it this way. There is a 2 to 10% likelihood of just an accusation being a false accusation in the context of this sense. So if that is true, right, that means that you would do that and multiply that by 26 different times, okay? So you're already at a 2 to 10% likelihood, and then that is made even lower every single time to just happen one time. All you need is to happen one time out of 26.
Yeah, all you need is one time.
That's like such a high percentage likelihood that this happened. The idea that you don't accept this actually concerns me because all of the evidence indicates that, probabilistically speaking, it's like 99% likely that this guy did it.
Because we have no evidence. The only court case that was brought forward.
Evidence. What is evidence? Can you define what evidence means?
Well, what evidence? They did not bring anything forward besides E. Jean Carroll.
What does evidence mean?
Well, evidence could be physical, or evidence could be witnesses. Evidence could be.
Here, I'll tell you. Evidence is like where there's probability pointing towards something being true. That's what we typically see as evidence. It increases the probability of something being true. And what I brought up indicates a probability of like 99 fucking percent that Donald Trump has done this, because that is the likelihood. Specifically, right, 0.01%, right, the likelihood that all of the 26 plus women are lying. That is the likelihood if you multiply it out, right? Because all you have to have is one scenario of them telling the truth in order to say that specifically there's enough reason to say that Donald Trump is someone that you shouldn't support. Okay, and the likelihood of 26 different people lying is so exorbitantly low. Like, seriously, think about it.
Again, besides their words, what are their evidence?
That is evidence. That is genuinely evidence. We can talk about each individual circumstance, but that in of itself is the best possible reason I could provide you, because it's probabilistically indicating that it's so fucking unlikely that it's wrong, right? This is evidence. It's like 99% evidence plus, right? Indicating that this guy fucking did something that you think is enough reason to not support him.
Okay, if that's enough evidence for you, I'll go get 50 women to double the numbers and make claims about you, and then there's your evidence. They're going to make claims. They're going to have hearsay.
So you're
and we'll
saying
see how that's going to pan out.
So what you just said is that you're going to go find people specifically, 50 people, to make up claims about me specifically, so that you can do so and coordinate people, right? Which shows a mechanism for coordination, also shows intent of you doing so on the live, right? Comparative to what we see in this scenario, where there's people from all over the context of the United States in different specific areas that don't have an affiliation in terms of collaboration, that there's no basis in specifically saying this for, right? None of these things are true. Those things are completely radically different. You are purposely and intentionally collaborating, getting people to come together to intentfully do that. Whereas in the scenario that you're bringing up, that's not true. These are all credible victims, different individuals that have came out and talked about the set of scenarios, and it clearly incriminates him. Not only his behavior, his constant behavior, saying that he grabs women by the vagina without asking, saying he did 10-year-old girl in 10 years, bragging about walking to the changing rooms of naked women while they're changing without the consent, where an 18-year-old came out, said there were 4 girls as young as 15 years old in these changing rooms and Donald Trump would barge in. All of these things indicate absolutely atrocious and horrible behavior specifically on behalf of Donald Trump. The fact that you don't indicate this to be probabilistically speaking, indicating Donald Trump is a horrible person and done this particular types of actions, or is very, very likely to have done so, is actually concerning to me. At what point would there be enough evidence for you? Because this indicates for fucking 99% likelihood that it's the case if you extrapolate out the probability.
It doesn't, because they can't
does.
showcase anything other than their own words. Also, quit taking stuff out of context, because he's talking about groupies when he says grab him by the pee.
No, you're so
Like,
disgusting. Oh, you're so
no,
gross.
he talks about
he's
groupies.
talking about how he grabs women by the vagina without
you didn't grow
asking.
up in the 80s and you don't know about groupies with rock concerts.
I'm sorry. I don't think it's okay to grab people by the vagina without asking in any of these scenarios, right? You have to establish consent, right?
You don't know about groupies? Because that's what he's referencing.
I'm sorry. You have to establish consent regardless of who you're talking about. You trying to dehumanize, right, specifically women in the context of the scenarios where specifically, right, they're engaging intercourse with, like, for example, celebrities, right, doesn't actually justify the fact that they don't, like, deserve consent. That's fucking nuts. Every single person deserves consent. The fact that you're referencing this in a scenario to even take away from that just by specifically calling them quote-unquote groupies is actually disgusting and shows that you dehumanize women. It genuinely does.
It's not, considering he said they just let you because they're groupies, which a groupie typically will do.
Wait. He said he was doing so and he doesn't even ask. He said he was doing so and they didn't even ask. You have to clarify these things prior, right?
Oh, you
don't just grab people by the vagina without asking. That's not how it works. No celebrity should just be able to grab people, right, in those particular areas without having consent.
Yeah, at this rate, we'd be a nation full of virgins, because I don't know.
Consent? Asking for consent? I'm sorry.
No.
Are you saying every sexual encounter you've ever had? Are you saying every sexual encounter you've ever had that you've never asked for consent or engaged in consent prior?
No, you can tell how the situation is going.
Answer the question. You said all of us. You said every single one of us would be fucking virgins, meaning that we would have never engaged in sex. You're projecting your own particular idea that people don't get consent prior. I want to let you know I get fucking consent.
I don't ask for consent because I know how the mood is going. I know if it's going to be a situation where it's going to lead to that, or
that's fucking disgusting.
You can tell.
That's actually fucking disgusting. What are you talking about? What do you mean you can tell? What do you mean you can tell? You don't.
How long have you been on the dating scene? Are you just new to dating?
I'm 23 years old. I'm in a 2-year-long relationship. I've held a relationship longer than you ever have in your life. What are you talking about, bro?
I'm 40 years old. I was married for 10 years, and I'm married for 5 now.
Okay, well, then I apologize, man. Married, well, I mean, of course there was a divorce.
And I have kids. So, obviously, I know what I'm talking about. You can tell if someone is into it, that if you're going to do it,
I'm sorry. You said that you're 40 years old and you've never asked for consent prior? That's fucking sad. That's disgusting and gross. All you're doing is telling on yourself right now. You're telling on yourself right now. You're fucking 40 years old and you've never asked for consent.
No, because our nation.
What are you talking about, dude?
When I was younger,
what are you talking about?
Full of little.
What do you mean? People who needed consent? Yes, people need consent. I'm sorry. People throughout history need consent. I'm sorry. The fact that you didn't feel like you needed to apply consent is a fault on behalf of yourself. It's not a fault on behalf of specifically where we are. Hello? You're the one fucking literally telling on yourself. You never asked for consent.
No, I'm not.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Because there's this whole thing of no meaning no.
Consent's required. You need to clarify consent prior.
You know, if you make a move and she says no and you stop, that's the end of it. You know about making a move, she'll tell you to stop, that's the end of it. It kills the mood or unalives the mood when you ask for consent.
It does not kill the mood when before you fucking touch someone's vagina, you ask or clarify prior. Have some mechanism for clarification.
Yeah, there's a thing called foreplay. You work up to that. You don't immediately go asking
that all
for that
indicates
stuff.
In the context of foreplay, there's consent to engage in foreplay prior to engaging in foreplay, right?
I know. Like, do you know the bases and rounding the bases to understand if you're going to get the home plate?
What do you, dude? You understand that we're specifically talking about the fact that you have to verify consent. You have to have these particular boundaries established. If you are never verifying this prior, you did not fully make sure that it is the case that that is true or someone is comfortable with it prior to going and engaging in this. Yeah. Saying that you didn't specifically have mechanisms for informed consent throughout the context of your life is not justification to not apply mechanisms for informed consent, especially now. I'm sorry, everyone should care about informed consent. Consent is not specifically something that takes away from literally being spontaneous. It's not something that takes away from the quote unquote mood. Clarifying before is just making sure that people are comfortable.
It definitely does.
It is not too soft to fucking have consent. I'm sorry, that's insane.
It definitely is. It unalives the mood.
By the way, you said that you've never asked for consent, not even in the very beginning of a relationship, specifically before you've even established those boundaries.
I don't even have one night stands. That's the problem. I don't go out and seek out gratification from someone for one night. I get to know the person, and I get to know when it's appropriate to do stuff and when it's not appropriate.
You
to do
understand that
something.
outside of the context of one night stands, you can also do it prior to someone being comfortable with it.
Of course, but I know the person. I know where things are leading, and I work up to stuff. I've never had the issue because I have full understanding of the relationship.
So if there were 26 different people that came out specifically about someone that you knew in your life and said that they engage in sexual misconduct towards them, right, would you specifically stay friends with that person?
I would have to see the evidence to prove I shouldn't be friends with them.
Say you couldn't actually look at any of the evidence, right? You weren't able to, but just based upon that one piece of information, what would you do?
I would support my friend until I see evidence saying otherwise. Because there's a whole, like in this context,
I'm sorry.
he is a billionaire.
You would stand with a friend that literally 26 different women accused of sexual misconduct?
Because he is a billionaire that was running or is president when they made these allegations.
I'm sorry, that doesn't.
How many allegations were made?
That doesn't happen with every presidential candidate. That's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, Tara Reid made allegations. Tara Reid made allegations.
In court and fled to Russia. You're not talking about 26 different people specifically that are going after one particular person for sexual misconduct.
Yeah. Also, he's not the established norm. He wasn't a politician before he started running for president. He was a businessman that even Republicans didn't fully support and didn't like some of the policies and support him in his first term.
Yeah, but you're sitting there and standing behind him now.
Of course, because I like the policies.
No, that's fucking insane, bro. I'm sorry. You said that at the point in which, even when Dean was on the live, you said at the point in which they meet, sexual exploitation, you wouldn't support them. We gave you multiple different circumstances how Trump is engaged in sexual exploitation and gave you very good reason to believe that this is true. What policies are so mighty fantastic that make up for this?
All you did is tell how someone's had hearsay. What was their evidence in these claims that wasn't just straight up hearsay?
So again, when we brought it up, the fact that there was a DNA on a dress, the fact that there were multiple other people specifically, the fact that there was a psychiatrist that verified the trauma, the fact that there was multiple other people specifically that she told at the time that verified a consistent story over multiple decades. Again, name the policies specifically that make up for all of these particular pieces of evidence that indicate that Donald Trump is guilty for this. And you say evidences and pieces of evidence like that's going to change your mind on this, when I gave you an argument that would indicate like 99% likelihood of this being true. And you didn't even respond to that.
Well, yeah, because the only physical evidence they had was the dress, but they didn't give up the raw DNA initially of the dress. They only gave up the basic report that says it's unverified male DNA on it, but not how they conducted the testing and not the raw DNA of the testing.
So in order to compare against Trump's DNA, Trump would have had to give up his DNA within the time slot allotted. Trump didn't give up his DNA within the time slot allotted.
Well, then why did the judge say that he wasn't going to force the E. Jean Carroll's defense to give up the raw DNA for Trump to give up his DNA? Why did the judge say it was in that first time he was offering that it was past the time of limitations? Because that was the second time.
This was all past the time. The judge acknowledged that this was Trump's mechanism specifically for trying to make the court process take significantly longer, that he wasn't going to play into it. So that was
that was the second time. The second time he said it was prejudice to E. Jean Carroll because of the timing of it. But the first time he said there was 3 years to litigate it and that he wasn't going to force the E. Jean Carroll's team to give up the raw DNA of the test in the appendix page.
Yeah,
that's the only thing he said on that.
Yeah, when they literally couldn't test it.
They could test it because Trump's offered his testing for that appendix.
Because this was after the context of the thing. They couldn't do it because it was after the context of the time slot allotted. I don't know where you're getting this information from.
The judge didn't say that.
It was after. Yes, they did. The judge indicated.
No, that was the second time.
Wait, the second time, which is reaffirming the truth specifically about what happened, and the second time specifically they brought this up. Why would you act like that's irrelevant to mention? Because it was the second time.
Yeah, the second time he offered his DNA was purely just to get it tested. They didn't ask for anything in return, but the judge said it was prejudice to E. Jean Carroll because of the timing. The first
Yes,
time they
timing
offered it,
meaning that it was after the time slot allotted. I already addressed this multiple times.
yes, but the first time he offered, the judge never mentioned anything about the timing of it. The judge just said they had 3 years to litigate it, but the fact
That's
that he's
mentioning
not
the
going
timing.
to,
That literally mentions the
yes,
timing.
but he said he's not going to force the E. Jean Carroll's team to give up the appendix for the testing to be done. He didn't say they couldn't test. He just said he's not forcing E. Jean Carroll's team to give up the
Well,
appendix.
then we'd have to know specifically. I'm pretty sure the connotation was because they didn't have the ability to, given that it was after the time. I would love for you to give me
No,
reason to
no, he
believe
didn't.
otherwise, because that's specifically
Yeah.
what I've seen.
Well, that's not the way it went down. He said specifically that it was 3 years to litigate it, and he's not going to force their side to give up the appendix that has the raw DNA for Trump to have his DNA tested against. He didn't say anything else about timing, that it was too
Yes,
late or anything of the
that
sort.
means it was after the time slot allotted. That because it was already affirmed.
No. Then why would he not just mention that and say
He did.
it
You
doesn't
said that he
matter?
did.
He didn't. He said it was 3 years that they had to litigate it, and he wasn't
That's the time
forcing
slot.
their
That's the time
side.
slot.
No.
3 years is the
Then
time
he
slot
wouldn't have
allotted.
to.
Okay.
If that was the case, he wouldn't say, "I'm not forcing their side to give
literally
it
are
up. If they
telling
want to
us-
give it
you're
up, they
telling us
will."
about- You're literally telling us how he engaged in talking about the time slot while saying that he didn't engage in talking about the time slot. What are you talking about?
Because there's no reason to mention that he's not forcing them to give up the appendix in this. If they don't want to give it up, they don't have to.
Okay.
There's no reason to mention that if it's past this timing and the case is going to start soon to trial.
All right. I don't think we're moving anywhere at this point.
I know. I got stuff I got to do. Take my little one and put her to bed. You have a good one.